There's a saying in the vineyards that the best fertilizer is the footprint of the owner. This statement mirrors the beliefs of both Ernest and Giulio Gallo. Giulio probably walked this vineyard 1,000 times in his lifetime. Today, the footprints are those of Giulio's children and grandchildren. These vineyards represent a long-held Gallo family belief that winemakers can dictate a wine's style, but it's in the vineyard where a wine develops its true character. And that's what I'd like to talk about today. Gallo's unique philosophy of wine growing. That's right, wine growing. Great wines must begin with great grapes. With a combined knowledge of Gallo's experienced viticulturalists, the key ingredients to growing quality grapes were brought together to form what we call the quality circle. Now, just as a master chef recognizes that it's the combination of ingredients and the relationship to each other which result in an extraordinary meal, the same is true for the elements of the quality circle. Today, I offer you a little taste of some of these ingredients, starting with the region. Sonoma County is one of the world's great wine growing regions, and early on, Ernest and Giulio decided to focus their efforts here. In fact, they started crafting wines in these vineyards as early as 1934. Since that time, Gallo has grown to become Sonoma's single largest vineyard owner. You may know some of our neighbors, such as Ferrari Carano, Clos du Bois, Deloche, Kistler, and Jordan. You may be asking yourself, what makes this land so different from, say, the land in other North Coast appellations, such as Napa or Mendocino? And how does this difference affect the quality of wines which are produced here? The major difference can be communicated in two words: climate diversity. Sonoma County is directly impacted by its proximity to the Pacific Ocean and the San Francisco Bay. During the late afternoon or early evening, a thick wall of fog climbs over the coastal hills and runs up the individual valleys in this growing region. The fog will then burn off over the course of the following morning, creating a weather pattern of warm days and cool nights. The ripening effect of California's intense sun is moderated by the cooling impact of the vineyard's close proximity to the ocean and its fog. Grapes grown under these conditions mature slowly through the growing season, and they develop higher acidity, lower pH, excellent color, and more developed varietal character, all of which are key elements in quality wine grapes. It is important to recognize, however, that Sonoma County is not just one valley, but a series of many valleys, each with its own distinct climate. Each valley's proximity to the ocean or bay and the height and profile of its surrounding hillsides dramatically impact its individual climate. As a result of these diverse climates, Sonoma County has the capability to produce wines of unique character. These wines exhibit excellent balance and complexity. No other single appellation in California has such diversity of superior growing areas. After selecting the region, it's time to pick the vineyard location. Now, just as climate drives the regional decision, soil drives the vineyard decision. The Gallo family's response to selecting the optimum soil is found in their commitment to what we call the benchland profile. Up here off the valley floor, topsoils are thin, thus limiting the amount of water and nutrients available. These well-drained, less fertile hillsides, also known as benchlands, make the vines work harder, thus producing a limited amount of quality fruit instead of a lot of leaves and big bunches of lesser quality grapes. The proper balance of leaves to fruit allows the right amount of sunlight to interact with the vine, thus producing superior quality grapes. Another attribute of these benchlands is the fact that they contain a mixture of round riverbed rock and gravelly soil, which we refer to as Gallo's signature soil. Now, this soil promotes excellent drainage of water, again, limiting the vine's intake of nourishment. They also act as solar reflectors, contributing to the exposure of sunlight to the vine's interior leaves and fruit, again, enhancing the quality of the grapes. Giulio Gallo sought this rocky, gravelly soil type in all of his Sonoma vineyards. He believed it created better grapes, Now, it's important to realize that this type of soil is not found throughout Sonoma County, but it is a hallmark of our 5 Sonoma vineyards. When the vineyard land has been chosen, it is then time to select the rootstock to be planted. All rootstocks are selected to protect the vine from potentially damaging organisms in the soil, like phylloxera, and to control the amount of water and nutrients that will be made available for fruit and leaves to grow. Next, we graft a particular grape variety onto the rootstock. In addition to choosing which grape variety, such as Chardonnay or Cabernet, there is also the decision of which clone or distinct type of an individual variety to use. For example, there are many distinct clones of Chardonnay. Different clones have different growing characteristics and contribute different taste elements. In the interest of continual improvement, there are over 100 distinct combinations of rootstock and varietal matches in Gallo's Sonoma vineyards. As a result of these ongoing experiments, better grapes and therefore better wines are being produced each year. As the vine grows, it clearly needs some water and nutrients to produce its crop. This leads us to irrigation management. In areas where the vineyard soil is shallow, the vines may have to be irrigated. In these areas, drip irrigation is employed. By adding or subtracting emitters, moisture can be adjusted to meet the needs of each individual vine. The goal is to provide just enough water to sustain the vine, being careful not to overwater, which would in turn dilute the varietal character of the juice. As each vine develops through the growing season, we actively monitor its growth, as well as the direction that the growth is allowed to develop. This is called canopy management. In order for the grapes to attain ideal ripeness, vines must become efficient solar collectors. Again, the key to producing superior fruit is to get the right amount of sunlight onto the grapes. Trellising is one way to do this. It is a system of guiding the leafy canopy to permit maximum sunlight and air circulation. Some trellises are designed to encourage shoots to grow vertically, thereby collecting sunlight more efficiently. Other trellises split a vigorously growing canopy in 2, providing greater surface area of leaves to the sun. Canopy management also includes leaf removal. Throughout the growing season, the vine's growth is constantly monitored, and any excess foliage is removed. This prompts sun exposure, which develops greater flavor intensity. As well, it enhances air circulation on and around the grape clusters, which prevent mold and mildew problems. During the winter, each vine is pruned or cut back in order to plan the next season's grape quantity. Again, with the objective of maximizing quality. The decision on how much to prune is based on the nearly half-century of experience the Gallo family has in managing vineyards and on the individual needs of each vine. Every vine has an optimal amount of fruit it can bear, and we must prune to achieve this. Caring for the vines is very labor-intensive. In fact, our vineyard manager estimates that every vine is personally tended to a minimum of 6 times each year by our staff. This is just one illustration of Gallo's dedication to quality, especially given the fact that we have over 2,000 acres with more than 1 million vines currently planted in Sonoma. More than just caretakers of the vines, the Gallos believe that we have an immense responsibility to the land. Giulio was insistent that these vineyards be farmed in ways that ensure the long-term healthy maintenance of the land and surrounding environment. This led us to develop and follow what we call sustainable agricultural practices. In essence, every attempt is made to eliminate the use of chemicals to control weeds, insects, and diseases. Instead, sustainable practices are employed that encourage beneficial insects, mechanical weed control, and natural over chemical fertilizers. An example of this is the control of harmful insect populations through the use of natural insect predators. In this form of integrated pest management, populations of predatory insects are released in a vineyard that can feed on the harmful insects. To keep the beneficial insects around, certain cover crops are planted and maintained to provide a habitat so that these insects can flourish. Other cover crops have added benefits. They reduce soil erosion and they compete with the vine for water and nutrients. A natural environment of grasses, old-growth oaks, and lakes help to maintain a system of environmental checks and balances. Unfortunately, the practice of retaining such natural habitats is a true rarity nowadays when developing expensive vineyard land. However, Gallo's give-back policy dictates that for every acre of vineyard planted, at least 1 acre is kept in woodland preserve. Looking into the hills, you can see this undisturbed natural environment. The Gallo family will never replace the woodlands with vineyards. They provide a much-needed habitat for wildlife and beneficial insects, as well as a watershed for lakes and ponds. This old oak tree is an example of our commitment to coexisting with woodlands. Now, when this vineyard was being developed, Giulio walked the land and isolated this tree and determined that no vineyard should be planted above its location. Since that day, this tree has become affectionately known as Giulio's tree. So our quality circle is complete. When it's time to decide when to harvest the treasure from these vines, it's the winemaker and the vineyard manager who make that decision. Every fall morning before the fog rises, the vineyard manager and winemaker walk through these vineyards to check the grapes' progress. Pick too early, and the resulting wine could taste tart, vegetative, and bitter. Pick too late, and the wine could be overripe, tasting too much like prunes or raisins. In the end, it's the personal touch and intangible knowledge that, when combined with the vigorous process of managing the vineyard, results in finished wines of the finest quality. After all, the Gallo family wouldn't have it any other way.